pass them down to the end. Tim will collect them, and we will ask as many of those as we can. All I ask is write neat and write short. So we can get through the questions and get as many answers as possible. With that, please give a round of applause to Mayor Jim Brainerd and Council President Rick Russell. Mayor Brainerd, you did the motivation first.
I want to thank the IndyStar for giving us the opportunity to have this discussion and debate. Over the years, I have searched out the most sophisticated models for city planning and development, and gathered a team of the sharpest minds in the business, and together we have worked hard to make Carmel thrive. And it's working. Carmel has been recognized as one of the best places to live in America. We rank high on safety and quality of life and have the lowest tax rate of any city our size or larger in the entire state. We achieved this with a vision first set forth by citizens of Carmel almost 20 years ago, implemented by creating a solid plan and carried through with sound conservative fiscal policies to focus on investing in Carmel to build a city that will succeed while managing our finances and our debt very carefully. And because of that hard work and commitment, we are facing a bright future, creating new jobs, completing our downtown city center, and bringing Midtown to life. We are seeing growth along the Meridian Street corridor and Oak Meridian. To those who are trying to alarm Carmel with fuzzy facts about our financial stability, I say look around. What we are doing in Carmel is working. Neighborhoods are strong, and our financial future is strong. What my opponent is talking about doesn't exist. I am passionate about creating great places to live and care deeply about the future of our city. Anyone who thinks I would jeopardize that is sorely mistaken. Quite the opposite is true. One of the first things I did when I took office was create a 10-year fiscal plan to more accurately analyze various scenarios. And it's working. Carmel's 2014 ending balance was more than $39 million, and we've been assigned a double A-plus credit rating by Standard & Poor's. Cities across the country are studying Carmel's redevelopment efforts, roundabouts, and parks. Many are traveling here by the busload to see firsthand what we have created, because they know it's working. Newer residents never knew the Carmel of the past, with cinder block buildings dotting the rundown landscape in Old Town, or the abandoned strip mall where City Center is being built today. But what they do know is that Carmel is one of the best cities anywhere to live, work, raise a family, and enjoy life.
Thank you, Council President Sharp.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the Star for hosting this debate, and I would like to thank all of you. What a tremendous turnout, especially for a debate regarding the municipal election, which unfortunately suffers the lowest turnout of almost any election we'll have. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I don't know most of you. My wife and I, Susan, moved here with and raised our family here. We moved here 23 years ago, and we love the city. It's been a fantastic place to raise our children, and I can't imagine having lived anywhere else. Some of my experience, it's been mentioned that I'm the council president this year. I've had the honor of serving people in my district this is my 12th year as a member of the council, and of those 12 years, I have been also honored to be selected by my colleagues to be president of the council 6 times. And I think one of the reasons for that is the fact that I am collaborative in nature. I work together with people to try and find the best solutions for Carmel and to lead Carmel forward. I also have long-time business experience. I spent 14, 15 years as a senior executive in real estate management, worked with various types of property all over the United States. And I've spent the last 23 years in the distribution of commercial laundry products. For 17 of that, I worked with my father-in-law's business and ran it as president for the last 13 years. I ended up selling it, and now work as a sales consultant for people that I sold the business to. The biggest challenge and joy of that work is helping someone invest $1 million in a new coin laundry and bring it up out of the ground and learn a new business. I'm running for mayor because I love this city. I have serious concerns about the fiscal management of the city. Mayor Brainerd is to be congratulated for the vision that he had for Carmel and the strength of will to execute it. There's no question that we have seen tremendous changes since Susan and I moved here in 1992. But I think that we had enough evidence that the fiscal decisions have been, at the very least, somewhat questionable. Others use stronger words. I think that in order to ensure that Carmel remains on this bright path to the future, we need to have a change in policy. And the way that we're going to affect the change in policy is a change in management. Much of the discussion of the mayor's campaign is focusing on the past and past accomplishments and how lovely everything is, and everything is lovely, no question about it. My campaign wants to focus our discussion on the future.
Thank you. A couple of things I should have mentioned. One, if you hear me clear my throat, it's probably an indication that the time has run out. We've got it up. So clear my throat. Secondly, my Twitter handle is Matthew L. Tully, Romeo Tully. If you have questions that you don't want to write on note cards, please feel free to tweet them, and you'll see me checking throughout the debate here. So please do that. I'm going to start with the first question for Council President Sharp. I think a lot of people know that you've been in the council for 12 years. The mayor was the mayor the whole time. The city has done a lot. There's two Republicans running for office. So far hasn't been a lot of debate about specific, huge policy differences. So, for voters coming to the polls in May, what is the line of division between you and the mayor on policy?
$1 billion in debt. One of the things that unfortunately is coming out of the other campaign are a series of distractions from that number. The latest one was a Facebook video I saw where it was explained to the viewer that the debt was really under $600 million. Well, I want to ask you a simple question. Do any of you believe that the mortgage holder on your house will be satisfied if you only pay the principal? The number that we are drawing from comes from the state of Indiana. It's not a number that we make up. And the state of Indiana examines the debt in terms of what is the citizen going to have to repay. And that's where we take that number from. The number has grown to a level that I believe to be unsustainable with the current fiscal policies. If you look at the May 29th pump law report, and now it's going to get really boring, we're looking at numbers that are used to disguise the real problem. We're looking at insubstantial sources of revenue, not the tax increment that was promised to repay it. That's one area of policy I want to focus on.
Here.
Well, unfortunately, my opponents deliberately misrepresented the amount of debt. CPAs, the financial industry, the business community does not count interest. You say you owe so much in your house, you don't include the interest, which could be paid off early, which could be reduced by refinancing. Our debt's about $550 million. But the key is that the residential taxpayer only is paying 3% of that debt. Over 50% of it is paid by the business community. We got them to leverage their future tax payments, put in infrastructure that we otherwise would have had to pay for. 25% of that debt is for our utility companies. Water and sewer, they're paid out of your utility bills. 16% of it's taken from our county option income tax. We have the lowest tax rates of any city our size or larger in the state, and our fiscal planning shows that we can pay off every bit of our debt without having to increase taxes. Debt needs to be viewed in relationship to income. Carmel's debt our debt payments constitute only 15% of our annual revenue. If you were to go in and apply for a mortgage on a house as a young couple, they'd let you go up to 30. We're half of that. And most importantly, an independent, international rating company rates us AA+. Almost the best rating there can be, and they're looking into the future about whether we're able to pay, not back.
Next question will go to the mayor. Mayor, given that, are you confident that the next 4 years can proceed without any sort of tax increase on the citizens of Carmel?
Absolutely. We've done it for 20 years. We've lowered, actually, if you look at a house. In fact, I have a picture of this house. I'll show you. Here it is. It's a house that we started to track in 1998. Back then, it paid $2,800 in taxes. Today, it's paying $1,700 in taxes. Where else can you find something that's 38% less than it was almost 20 years ago? I'm proud of that record. We can continue it. We have very manageable debt. We're in good shape. That's why we have that great credit rating. And we have built our real infrastructure. We have all these wonderful things that make Carmel a competitive community to be able to attract jobs and additional investment here. We haven't put those things aside. We're in great shape. Mr. Sharp.
First of all, about that house, there was a major change in tax policy at the state level, I believe, in 2003. And I don't know, and I'm not questioning, I'm just raising it as a thought. I don't know that that actually has been adjusted for in the house that we've been tracking for so many years. Rating agencies are another thing that can be a little bit tricky to negotiate. Number one, we only go to one. It'd be interesting to see if the other two major ones would be in alignment with the one that we go to. But the real thing that they look at more than anything else is, can Carmel repay the debt? We're a very wealthy community. We can repay the debt. We can tax our way out of this problem. It's not the policy that I would pursue. But additionally, we have a problem in this community with many of our homes are at the current circuit breaker caps. So if we were to raise taxes, it's number one going to go to the business community because both multifamily and commercial properties have plenty of room under the cap to raise taxes. Also, it would disproportionately affect the people who make less money in Carmel. So that would be the reason I say these are points to bring up, but I look at them more as a bit of a distraction, almost like the $38 million at the end of the year within the bank. Most of those restricted funds that can't be used for only but a very narrow purpose.
Thank you, and thank you all for all the questions you've already sent in. I'm going to turn the floor to Tim for a minute. There's another question you'd like.
Yes, thank you. We'll start with President Sharp on this one. The issue is very much in the news right now. Where do you stand on Indiana's recent religious freedom law? How will it affect Carmel businesses? And what would you do as mayor if discrimination does occur in the city of Carmel?
So let's take it in the reverse order. I completely abhor discrimination of any sort, of any type, and if I were mayor of Carmel, I would take strong action. If I had legal action available to me, I would definitely use the bully public of the mayor's office to condemn it. As far as the Religious Freedom Act, I think that the governor has shown real leadership in yesterday when he held a press conference and announced that the language that should have been there to ensure for anyone, supporters and detractors, that this was not a measure that was going to be used for discrimination. It was a measure to protect individual freedoms. I think that goes a long way to settling the issue. In fact, I noted with some interest that the governor of Arkansas today learned a lesson from Governor Pence, and he's refused to sign it until that language is enabled. So, I understand where people felt it was needed. I've also been told there was some need to marry Indiana law with state law. But the one thing I know, and the mayor reminds me all the time, I'm not a lawyer. I didn't go to a top 20 law school, and I certainly don't specialize in constitutional law, so I'll leave those questions for others.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, grew up in a little town in Indiana. One of the first things we were taught as kids is that you treat everybody fairly and equally. And it's real simple. Any law that doesn't do that shouldn't be on the books. 2009, I issued an executive order in the city of Carmel that prohibited discrimination in hiring city employees. March 30th, a few days ago, I went on 3 TV stations, responded to both the Star and the Indianapolis Business Journal because they had questions. Made it clear that we understand that there were probably some people who voted for this law that understood, that thought it was meant so that the Jewish kid who is assigned a big exam on a high holiday doesn't have to take it to protect that sort of person. But it was done in the context of something very different in Indiana. And as a result, we need to take strong steps now to make sure the rest of the country and the world understands what a hospitable place Indiana really is. We have 75 corporate headquarters. along US 31 in Carmel. Over 3,200 businesses. Many of these businesses sell their products and services all over the world, all over the country. And I spent the last days just talking to many of these businesses, talking to them. I had an email today from a gentleman that said, I was trying to recruit a very high-level employee. Just got an email that said, I don't want to live in Indiana. We need to fix this problem, and we need to fix it now.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Tim for other questions.
This is for Mayor Brainerd. Sure. Mayor Brainerd, would you support an effort to establish a protected legal classification for sexual orientation and gender identity in the firm?
I have no issue with protecting people so they're treated equally. I'm not sure how that would work vis-a-vis state law. But no, everybody ought to be treated equally.
Indianapolis has a human rights law in place now. Would you support duplication of that law?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Doesn't show what's your stand on that issue.
Well, the mayor and I are going to agree, so I'll save everybody time and just say, I think he stated it well. As I said earlier, I abhor discrimination in any form. Everyone has the right and should expect to be treated equally and fairly, and municipal government at all level has that obligation.
Would you introduce on the council a human rights ordinance?
Yes. I'm not saying I do Indianapolis because I haven't read it, but yes.
I'll start with Mr. Sharp on this one. Carmel is seen as the gem of the state, accolades up and down for everything from its economy to its schools to its downtown. Why does it need a course correction, which a new mayor would need?
Well, the mayor and I are going to continue to differ over this. It has to do with $1 billion of debt. It has to do with looking at numbers for repaying that debt and seeing that the way it was originally presented, it's not possible. It has to do with fiscal policies that push Carmel to the edge of a cliff. Currently, if you look at our budget, we spend every dime. There's nothing available to do something different with, and an unexpected decline could be dangerous for Carmel. And I know I'm going to be fear-mongering, but that's just the fact. All you have to do is just focus on the Carmel Redevelopment Commission's debt and look at the statement of what the tax increment is available to repay that debt, and look at what just a minor bobble in the economy could do. You look at their plan, and number one, there's no provision in that plan for any downturn in the economy of any sort. And historically, we know the United States is going to enter into some sort of economic recession every 7 to 10 years. This is debt to be paid out over, I think, 24 years at this point. I think it's in 2025, I believe we go off the interest-only diet we're on right now. And yes, right now, all we're paying is the interest on that redevelopment commission debt. And our payments increase by a substantial amount. If we don't get the growth that is projected, and that's the danger. The danger is having real debt that is backed up by projected revenue. And I would never have gone to a 1-to-1 ratio on my projected revenue for debt. Okay.
Well, Rick, I'm sorry, you got fuzzy facts again. It's a 110 to 110% to 1 debt equity, or not debt equity, but ratio right now. Just at the Redevelopment Commission. Redevelopment Commission receives about $21 million a year. Its debt payments are about $18 million. That's a $3 million margin. And the plan is conservative. Just this week, we read in the local media that Della Fawcett, unplanned, not in the plan, is adding a $17 million investment to their campus. That's $400,000 extra a year right there. And the fact he said we're only paying interest on the debt, again, it's just not true. We divide that redevelopment commission refinance into 2 parts. One had a slightly higher interest rate, one had a slightly lower interest rate. Paying off the one, entirely paying off the one with a higher rate first, because the taxpayer pays less money in the long run. That only makes sense. You know what? I just have to say, Ricky voted for about 80%, 75-80% of the debt. So it's hard to see how it's so bad now. But it's interesting. I was reading an article about the Swallows returning to Captain's Ground. It's kind of like elections in Carmel. Every 4 years we seem to have a debt crisis in the city. And then, the next 3 or 4 years come and we continue to have low taxes and good planning. There's no issue. We're in great shape. In fact, I'm proud of our fiscal fiscal plan of what we've been able to do and have this low tax rate that most people don't have.
So this question's for the mayor first.
Okay.
Mitch Daniels, when he first ran for re-election, Democrats have been in office for 16 years, and he ran on a slogan saying, every garden needs weeding every 16 years or so. You've been mayor for 20 years, which is a long time in politics. Why do you need 4 more?
I need to talk to Governor Daniels about that. I want to see us continue on the same path. First of all, I love my job. I love managing the city of Carmel. It's been the highlight of my life to do it. And it's a great honor to be able to do it. I want to see Midtown completed. I want to continue to see our transportation projects continue to be built. Every time we build a roundabout, we're making that intersection safer for the people, for our kids, for elderly people, for people that live here. I want to continue to see our business development so that when the kids and grandkids have a choice about where to live, then they think, I want to go back to Carmel, Indiana. I can get a really good job there. I don't have to go to Boston or San Francisco or Los Angeles or Chicago. I can get a good job in Carmel, Indiana. We need to continue building this city so it's one of the best places to live and work anywhere in the country.
We'll turn it back over to Tim for any questions.
So I think this one's for Matt and me. It says, was there a special reason why this debate is scheduled on April Fool's Day?
I asked the same question.
Mayor Brady, this one is for you, but we'll follow up with President Sharp. Has Palladium ever turned a profit in the year since it opened?
No, I haven't. It wasn't meant to. In fact, if the Palladium made a profit, government wouldn't do it. Our police department doesn't make a profit. Our fire department doesn't make a profit. Our street department doesn't make a profit. But it was something we thought was really important to do to attract business investment to our city, to raise the quality of life in Carmel, Indiana, to fill a missing niche in this area to make us more competitive for good jobs. It's all about being able to attract the best employees here to be able to attract good jobs in Indiana. And the Palladium helps do that. We're going to do everything we can to continue to build an endowment, run an efficient way. I'm sure our not-for-profit corporation that does that. But no, it has not turned a profit and will not do so.
Okay. Well, first of all, if you think I'm going to say something bad about Palladium, you're wrong, because we've got a substantial investment of public dollars there, and regardless of what we think about it now, it's there, and we need to do everything that we can to support it and help them to be a success. And no, the mayor's absolutely right. We never expected it to turn a profit. In fact, we were told emphatically by the expert that the mayor hired to advise the council then on the feasibility of this project that we would obviously have to subsidize it. The difference lies in the numbers, and unfortunately that seems to be the case often with this administration. I still have the plan, and it said, you're going to subsidize $300,000 a year, probably, but in no way would you spend more than $600,000. The mayor and I actually even had a discussion in the council meeting, because I'm supportive of the project, where it said, so in other words, there might come a time where our entire support for the arts budget, $600,000 to $700,000, might have to go solely to the Palladium. And again, we were in agreement that that would be the case. The subsidy to operate the Palladium by far and away exceeds $600,000, and I think that people might have had different thoughts about the wisdom of that project if we'd known how much in the way of resources it was going to require.
We will start here. First in the audience is concerned, why is it so difficult for the council to have access to records from the CRC?
It's getting a little bit better. No, I should say that's not fair. It's gotten much better. With the clerk treasurer, we gained a position as a treasurer. There's much greater degree of transparency. The records are out there and available. There is some tension, I think, yet between the treasurer, mainly because the CRC passed a resolution that basically said, you'll write the checks and we'll tell you what to do, and you don't have a role in policy, which I would do differently were I mayor. But I will say that under Executive Director Corey Meyer, there has been a much greater effort at working with the council and providing the council with the information that we request, and it's been a real breath of fresh air.
Well, I'm glad that you see improvement. Transparency is a very popular term today in politics. All someone needs to do is excuse someone not being transparent immediately, creates doubt, shadow of doubt. I think many times it's a cliche. When one's involved in a negotiation, President Sharp has criticized me for discussing lawsuit settlements in the executive session and closed session. You can't put these things, you can't do everything in public. For instance, he tried to negotiate the paper when I was on a claim that we were disputing from one of the subcontractors to the plate. He offered in the newspaper $1 million. We already had it negotiated down to $700,000 at that point. That wasn't helpful. I'm sorry, Rick. It made it very difficult. We did end up saving about $300,000 on that claim. You can't do everything, although you do the final vote. It eventually becomes public. Can't do everything in secret. Every vote of the Redevelopment Commission is done in public. Reports are available online. We even make our Community Development Corporation minutes and meetings open to the public. Indianapolis doesn't do that. Talk about the clerk treasurer not getting records. She, by law, since I took office, has been, under Indiana law, the treasurer of the Redevelopment Commission. Unfortunately, she quit coming to the meetings about 10 years ago. So she didn't have access to the documents as easily as she could have had she come or sent a staff member to those meetings. We put every Redevelopment Commission meeting on television. The Department of Community Relations actually tags everything.
Just cut it for a second. Maybe we can continue the question because it seems like you both have a lot to say on this issue. Mayor, there has been criticism at times from others beyond Mr. Sharp about transparency and whether projects were always sold as what they would end up being as far as cost and financing. Have you made any mistakes in how you shared information, or has this all been political?
I won't say everything's been done perfectly as much as, that's not life. We all know that. In regards to since you raise it again, the operating subsidies for the plate, we made the Redevelopment Commission, majority of council made a decision back, 10 years ago now, right before we started construction, as to whether it's going to be a rental hall or a presenting hall. Presenting hall has the ability to raise endowment, do a lot of things that a rental hall can't do, bring in shows, but it also increased the amount of subsidy necessary in the beginning. There's no question there was a change from the initial presentation, but that's life too. People, if they look at a problem or look at a challenge over time, they change sometimes the direction they're headed in, and that's what happened with the scope of the plate. It wasn't, I don't think this shouldn't have misled anybody. It was a change. It was openly discussed. Transparency, again, as I said, it's a cliche. It casts a shadow of doubt when people do things. But you were very open in this city. The meetings are available on television. They're open to the public. They're noticed. Every contract. Some cities don't operate like this. Every contract that's signed, that I sign, I had the responsibility under state law to sign every contract with the city of Carmel. We put them online. Not required.
Sure. Good question.
Just have other maybe questions about
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it certainly has not only been me or even only members of the council asking questions about transparency. But let's go with the specifics of the Palladium. I don't believe you'll find anything in the record where there was an open discussion with the council and a decision by the council to change from a rental hall to a presenting hall. I'm pretty sure that what you'll find is that was a decision that was foisted on the city by the executive. As far as the hall itself and the question of transparency, it wasn't until the summer of, I need dates, but I'm going to be pretty close, I think, the summer of 2008 that the Redevelopment Commission was made aware that the cost overruns on the Palladium would not permit the hall to be finished, and that creates a whole host of problems, including levying an $80 million bond on the taxpayers if we were not able to complete the hall. And the CRC had a retreat in Maryland and discussed the options with our advisors, and that was when we agreed to, as I'm voting for all this debt, where we agreed that we really had had no choice to protect the taxpayers. We had to agree to the additional funds for the mayor to finish the hall. Same thing goes with Keystone. Same thing goes with I had to vote. I felt to protect the taxpayers when we had to bail out the CRC, whose fiscal policy brought it to the brink of insolvency. So, thank you.
Tim?
Mayor Brainerd, Western.
You know?
Mayor Brainerd, could water and sewer rates be lower if the debt was lower?
Water and sewer rates are totally separate from tax. Our water and sewer rates are a fraction of what Indianapolis customers pay. When we soften the water at our plants so that the homeowner doesn't have to do that as well. No, one of the things people don't remember about our sewer plant is we're also serving most of Westfield with processing their sewage and making some very good money doing it. But as a result, we have to have a little bigger plant. Our debt, utilities are not paid for with tax money. They're paid for entirely with user fees. And they're not backed up with tax money. If you go out and borrow money to build a little bigger plant because the city is growing, then that money has to be paid back through user fees, not taxes. There are no tax guarantees for any of our utility debt, and it's a very reasonable amount of debt. And we're in a position where we can grow, and revenues will continue, and debt will be paid off. And you might remember a few years ago we had a drought. Indianapolis had plenty of water. What we didn't have was treatment facilities and a system that could deliver it. And the public was demanding about 5 times more than what's normal. Carmel did have that system in place. We were able, people that had lots of nice landscaping didn't lose it. They were able to keep their yards in good shape. Our utilities are well managed by John Duffy, our utility director, and I think the mix of debt and is just right.
Sure. First of all, again, the mayor and I are in agreement. I think that the utilities are well managed by John Duffy. A shocking thing the council learned a couple of years ago, though, when the utilities were facing a real problem in terms of solvency, is that their business model was based on growth. They ran operations out of tap fees. So tap fees are which pay for when a new building comes in or new units are coming online. Most unusual business model that I've never heard of before, that you base your daily operations on future growth. In restructuring the utility, we did make great changes. You all saw them. But I can tell you that today, the financial structure of the utilities is sound. They operate off of their rates, and we are building a surplus. By the way, speaking of debt, part of the debt that I voted for, and I've not walked away from any of the debt that I voted for, were a couple of utility bonds. The second one was because the work from the first one never got completed, and so in order to complete the expansion of that plant, we had to actually incur more debt. So there's, again, it's the diversions that I wish we could avoid in the discussion.
Thank you. I'm very excited to have my first ever Twitter debate question. Thank you to Stacy. This is addressed to you, Mr. Chair. I only hear about slowing down and paying debt. What about growth? What are your plans to continue Carmel's growth?
That's a great question because that's not the only thing I want you to hear, Stacy. I spoke at the last forum. One of the things I would do greatly differently than this administration is my pursuit of economic development. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to promote the accomplishments of the mayor and to advance the recognition of the city. That's fine. That's part of the program. I understand that. But it should not be, in my estimation, at the heart of an economic development program. First of all, I would target a specific industry, and I spoke about it then. I think right now the way to go is to target life and health sciences. We've got great bones in the 31st corridor with 4 hospitals and other attendant medical facilities. I think we take a hard look at that industry, see what is the niche that we can build here, bring in an economic development expert, target a marketing plan, and put our money to good use. Put our money to bringing in high-paying jobs that is a growth industry of the future. And, as a side note, Lucy Snyder and I had the opportunity to meet with the executive director of Invest Indiana, which is the investment group that all the municipalities participate in. And as he revealed the results of their economic survey, it turned out that what I propose is in the top 5. Mayor?
Well, I'm glad this issue came up. because it's another area where I think voters will see a clear difference in their philosophies. There are fundamental problems right with your approach. Number one, my goal has always been diversification. One sector doesn't do well, another sector may be doing well. So what we want is a diverse group of companies as our business tax base. And we've done that, to focus all on medical. Medical, we have a lot of uncertainties in the medical world today. Not to mention the hospitals don't pay property tax generally. They're not for profit. We already know have 4 hospitals. We have negotiated with 2 of them so they do pay some taxes. We have dozens of surgery centers and hundreds of doctors' offices. Thirdly, in the debate the other night, you complained about our interaction with IEDC. They perform a vital function, but much of their focus is on attracting manufacturing because of the makeup of Indiana. The Carmel isn't like the rest of Indiana. We want something like minimum wage jobs here. We had to set ourselves apart from our competition locally, regionally, and nationally, and that means doing things differently. American Specialty Health is an example. I heard from a local realtor that they were interested in putting a small satellite office here. I get on a plane first thing, get out to San Diego, meet with their president. We turn that into a corporate relocation with 580 jobs, paying an average of $75,000 per job.
I promise both of you a really short rebuttal to anything you've heard so far. 45 seconds each, and then I'm going to turn the podium over to the students to ask the next 4 questions. Mr. Sharp, I'll let you go first.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, I'm going to just continue to point out where we're dealing with politics instead of issues. The throwaway comment that was just made about my disparaging our efforts with IEDC, if you go back and look at the tape, I think you'll find that it's much the same as the comment that was made by the mayor last week that I did call the Arts and Design failure on my Facebook page, and you won't find that either. So I think I've already talked about why I voted for debt, for some of this debt. And as far as transparency, I wasn't criticizing the discussion on a lawsuit. The mayor knows that. I was talking about an issue regarding funding for the city from the CRC. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, I just want to be positive and point out that what we're doing in Carmel is working. We're building our tax base. People are moving here from across the country. Businesses are moving here. The businesses that are here are expanding. We've got one of the lowest, I'm going to say it, because it's important. So proud of the fact that we have the lowest tax rate of any city our size or larger than the state of Indiana. We have a AA+ rating from the credit Standard & Poor's. They don't give those ratings out if you're in trouble. They just don't. They also comment, if you read the report, that we're well managed. We use our marketing and public relations techniques for economic development, and that's working too. We have over 75 corporate headquarters, regional, national, international, located in Carmel. That's one of the main reasons we have such low taxes.
Can I turn the podium over?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Krishna Pathak. I'm senior class president at Carmel High School and founder of our nonpartisan political discussion club. I'd like to thank Mr. Tully and the library for setting this up, and Kenneth for showing up, and then you all especially for making this possible in the end. There would have been more students, but we had a pretty sweet basketball game going on.
Oh, come on.
So I'd like to have the mayor start with this one, Mr. Sharp. For about 2 decades, we've had a looming issue with an unincorporated community referred to as home place, the city of Carmel, and our annexation of it. In 2012, Hamilton County judge ruled that we got 3 years to resolve this, in 3 years we have to come back to this. So I'd like to ask both of you, what exactly is this issue of annexation of unincorporated places? What do you plan to do with it? And how does this affect common citizens of Carmel?
Me first? Okay. You're too young to remember when I became mayor. A few years later, when Mr. Sharp was elected to the council, first of all, there's 49 square miles in Clay Township. And that's our school district, that's our library district. But when I came into office, only 18 of those square miles were in the city of Carmel. And I made a statement early on that the school boundaries, the city boundaries, and the township boundaries, the library boundaries ought to be the same. For instance, when we take your taxpayer money as citizens of Carmel invest in economic development. Well, back then, schools were paid out of property tax, so that built tax base for the schools. And the people outside the city limits got the benefit of that. However, they weren't making the initial investment. It wasn't their fault. So I have been a proponent from day one that the entire township, the entire school district, ought to be incorporated into the city of Carmel. We've done, I think, 56. We've actually done 57 annexations. The one you mentioned for the square mile or so, the zone place, is the only one that's still pending. I'd like to see that get resolved in the future. There's going to be a lot of work we need to do at home place when we do it, so we need to time it carefully. We want to make sure there's some beautiful neighborhoods at home place. There's also some streets that are pretty rough, that have higher crime rates, that aren't as nice as the rest of Carmel. When we do annex it, we need to get in there and help those residents clean up that area, and I want to make sure we're well prepared financially when we finally get to that point.
I think that the annexation should have been prosecuted years ago, and we've had discussions about it with the mayor and I and township officials. It lingers in the courts. I think it's unfair to the citizens of Carmel. I think it's unfair to the citizens of Home Place that we leave this dangling out there. So one of the first things that I will do as mayor of the city is sit down, find neighborhood leaders, we know some of them in Home Place, and sit down at a table for as long as it takes to find out what their issues are and resolve our differences and conclude this matter.
Hello everyone, I'm Angela Sun. I'm a sophomore, not student body president, but I'm a reporter for our high school newspaper, The Highlight, and I'm next year's congressional debate head for our debate club. And this is for Mr. Sharp first, and then Mayor Brainerd. Even as Mayor Brainerd mentioned at the beginning of this debate, while Carmel was known last year in 2014 as one of the best places to live in the United States, millennials are still not choosing to stay here, especially as a place to live and to raise a family. So I just wanted to ask both of you what developments you saw for the future and what improvements specifically for Carmel would you make to keep millennials and 30 and unders here?
Well, thank you. First of all, I have to say that I believe it might be too early to say that the jury's in on millennials. We just had this discussion with a gentleman today at the Mayoral Center, and what I think you find is, so you get out of college, you get your job, you're on your own for the first time, you've got some money, and you're not thinking about buying a house in most cases. You're going to rent an apartment, and you're going to live in an apartment, and I think Carmel is certainly is offering a wide array of that type of living lifestyle. Then I think, though, what happens is as you grow a little bit older, you get married, and especially when you start to have a family, I think that unless the community is ingrained in a lifestyle of density, like Chicago or New York, apartment living is not going to be the preferred choice. I think that millennials, when they get a few more years under the belt, are going to prove to be just like every other generation. When they raise their family, they're going to want a home. It may not be a home anything. It may be an attached home. It may be a home on a zero lot line. But I think that market will also attract millennials.
Ready for me? Okay. First of all, I think you'd find it interesting if you went back and looked at the census statistics. 20 years ago, the average age in Carmel was about 15 years older than the national average. Today, it's about, the census of 2010, that's today, I think it's probably even gotten lower, but in 2010, we were within a couple of months of the average age of the country. So I think we've improved in the area of attracting younger people to Carmel. And the way we're going to be able to do that is to continue to build our walkable city center, our midtown development, our pedestrian-friendly downtown. We're going to unveil our new bike share in a week and a half or so. Just one little thing. Building an area when I moved to Carmel, there weren't many choices about where to live. There were houses on 4 acres and half acres and 5 acres. Those were, for the most part, the choices. Today, we have townhomes, we have condominiums, we have low-price apartments, we have expensive apartments, And so we have many more options for people, including the millennials. It's interesting. I'm starting to see a cycle. When somebody gets out of college or grad school, they generally going to be in an apartment or maybe double up and be in a nice townhome or something. A few may go ahead and buy a house early or a condo. And then they raise their families. Generally, you see people, as President Sharp said, want to have a house. Then as they get older, suddenly that lawn mowing doesn't look as attractive as it did when they were 25. And they go back to the apartment. But we have people come from other countries where, speaking of other, I remember a story, Mayor Val, I didn't tell a great story though.
My name is Jason Klein. I'm a senior at Carmel High School. I'm involved in the student government there, and I'm also on the Carmel leadership team. So what I want to ask is, obviously the city of Carmel is very good at marketing to certain groups, certainly young professionals, business owners, families. One group, and I can understand this, that often gets overlooked a bit is the group of teenagers or youths such as myself, such as Krishna, Angela, and Alex. So what I would ask is, over the next few years, how will the city of Carmel continue to integrate these type of youths into the community?
Is that the leader today?
I think we'll start with...
Well, first of all, that's a good question. That's a real good question. It's important to do that. One of the things I did last few years is started Mayor's Advisory Youth Council. And students actually choose who's on from year to year. It's open to high school students. We have city staff work with them and teach them about local government. They do tremendous volunteer work in different organizations throughout the city. So we try to integrate the high school students into the community as a whole. The other things we've done to make it, when I came in as mayor, we had 41 acres of parkland. Today we're close to 1,000. Maybe younger kids are interested, but I think everybody likes parks, but particularly young people. The Monon Center, our bike trails, I think are tremendously important to allow everybody, but particularly high school and junior high kids, a way to get out, have a little independence maybe before they can drive. So we try to do a lot of things that make it a better place to, in fact, I used a book I handed out, that he gave a copy to Rick at one point, called The Inch City by a guy named Bill Giroux. And his point of this book, which is a city about places like Carmel, was that it's got to be friendly for all sorts of people, whether they're elderly, whether they're old, whether they're disabled, whether they're from other places. But it can't just focus on one demographic. It's got to be a good place to live for everybody, including students.
I'm going to be straightforward with you and give you a non-political answer. Our youngest daughter is 20, so if I were to try to pretend I understood what you guys wanted at 18, 17, 16, that's what it would be. What I would do, and I applaud the mayor for the Youth Advisory Council, I would certainly continue that. And the first thing I would do would be to convene a meeting and say, okay, tell me what you need, what you're not providing for you in the city. And then we would work together to fill that need. That's a great question. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Alex Young, and I'm a junior at Carmel High School. I also have the pleasure of serving on the Carmel team. As well as I'm a photographer for the highlight, so you may have seen me come through. Sorry if I got in your way. Actually, I was originally going to ask a question about the debt, but I don't hit that enough, so I'm going to ask a more lighthearted question. You see the involvement that we have here at Carmel, coming to a mayoral debate, and as a youth as well. So I guess this question is first directed at Council President Sharp. What would you do to increase civic participation by Carmel residents in our community, as well as the youth, and help us get involved and more involved in the decision-making process?
One of the things that I would do, I would institute street corner meetings and hold them on a regular basis and rotate through, all town. I probably can't get into every neighborhood because there's a couple hundred neighborhoods, but we certainly could announce, pick the best spot and announce to, say, those 4 to 6 neighborhoods around, hey, the mayor is going to be here from 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock. Come by, talk to them about, what you would like to see done, what are your concerns. And I think what we need to do is we need to get closer to our constituents. And I've maintained my my public figure Facebook page, Rick Sharp for Carmel, that's 2 bucks. and I've stayed up with it for the 4 years in the interim. I'm not posting every day, but I'm trying to engage with my constituents. And I think that a way to take that even further is to step out of the electronics and get back to the good old days of face-to-face conversation and inviting people to interact with people.
Okay, thanks. Well, it's what we've been doing for a long time in Carmel. Set up many years ago, Carmel Neighborhood Association meeting where the presidents, neighborhood associations come together, meet city staff, ask questions, give us advice, interact among each other. I've gone out to literally hundreds of neighborhood association meetings and try to listen very carefully as well as talk about what the city's doing. We set up the Carmel Small Business Network, works like the neighborhood network, except for small business people who may have questions or suggestions. All the emails that you send to my page, City Hall, they come straight to me. Nobody else reads them or answers them. And my home telephone number is in the book. I think there's still a book, but it's public. It's public. And somebody needs to call me as an idea, a complaint, suggestion. I'm there and I'm accessible. And I think most people you talk to who have ever tried to contact your office say that we're accessible.
Give me a real quick round of applause for the students. Do you want to get that phone number out?
Yeah, sure. I tried to repeat his page, and 573.
I'm going to double up a question here. Very recently, the latest portion of the Midtown Development Project was announced. There's talk of more tax subsidies for that project. Obviously, something I'm going to support, Mayor. You talk about why they deserve subsidies. At the same time, whoever the mayor is for the next 4 years will have to make a decision about whether to lead a push for a referendum to raise income taxes for mass transit, most likely. What is your position on that, too?
Two tough questions. Not tough questions, but detailed questions, I should say. First of all, I would quibble with the idea of subsidies. Every time a building is developed anywhere in the United States, there's city infrastructure, bridges, roads, water pipes, electric pipes, gas pipes, systems that are necessary. If you go out to build a road to something that's in a newly developed green field, that road costs $7 to $8 million a mile, and that's without all the utility pipes and so on. Then you have to add a fire station. $2 to $3 million to build the station, $2 million to staff the year, and you have to add police. You start to add up all these costs. Development costs money. The key is that the tax money that you receive from that new development is more than the expense. In a redevelopment area, it's harder for businesses to come in and go up several stories. Remember, cities are paying the property tax. A 5-story building pays 5 times the amount of a 1-story sprawl. So we're also doing this redevelopment in areas that have fire protection, have police protection, have many of the streets available. But what the change is, it's a different type of infrastructure, not a subsidy. We allow the future taxes from that business owner to be used to put in what infrastructure is necessary. And that usually, to get the density that we need to make this work, is a parking structure. And maybe redo the streets and all the fun that we like, the brick sidewalks and so on. But the majority of it goes towards being able to park a denser site and make redevelopment work. But as a result, we don't have a blighted core in our downtown like so many cities across the U.S. that's always expanding outward.
Can I get a yes or no throughout time on the mass transit referendum?
You can only build so many roads. It's all expensive. We need to have a good public countywide discussion about what the best type of transit is, but I'm convinced that we can't build enough roads to handle our traffic issues. We'll have to go with some sort of mass transit.
Thank you. Mr. Sharp, I'll give you 2 minutes for this one.
Okay, thank you. It's a subsidy. We can say it's not a subsidy all we want, but it's a subsidy. And what I find to be disturbing is we are the wealthiest demographic in the state of Indiana. One would argue we are amongst probably the top 10 in the United States, and yet we are subsidizing developers to come to Carmel and build. That wouldn't be nearly as disturbing if we weren't giving away 100% of it. That wouldn't be as disturbing if we weren't offering to back it up with a special benefits tax, which means it's a burden potentially for you. Now, they will say, oh no, it's not a burden at all. When this issue was brought up in City Center, and I made the statement at City Center after a 10-minute presentation where I showed that all the lovely civic spaces that we were supposed to get when I voted for this back in 2005 or 6 had basically gone away, and we were getting wide sidewalks and a dense apartment complex. But I acknowledge we've got to finish that project sitting across from a $200 million investment, $175 million in taxpayer money, right across the Mona. But I drew the line at the special benefits tax. Even though we cut the number of our subsidy from 100% to 75%, we were willing to give 100%, but I drew the line at the tax. And I asked the developer, since you're saying there's virtually no chance of this happening, will you, for yourself and your wife, and will your partners sign an irrevocable personal guarantee as a last backstop? And the answer was no. And so if it's not a lead pipe cinch for them, it's not for me either, and I'm not going to take that risk with you. As far as mass transit, I have said all along I'm in favor of beginning to explore mass transit. I don't think it would be wise for us to go all in. I think we first have to demonstrate we can build a culture of mass transit. And to that end, I said I would fully support the rapid transit lines that would use buses, because if we fail to get people to take to mass transit, it's pretty easy to sell buses as opposed to light rail.
I'm going to turn it over to Tim for a couple questions.
Councilman Sharp, knowing what you know today, would you still vote for the plate?
Yes. However, I would now put very strict controls in the bond issue so that an $80 million project would not be delivered at $135 million. The mayor can it's just like my fuzzy map that comes from the state of Indiana. We can try to spin this all we want, but the fact of the matter is, one of the fiscal problems I have with this administration is we get the camel's nose up the tent, and then when it's too late, we have to go and finance more. The Palladium, Keystone, we all love Keystone Parkway. It came in 18, 19% of the budget. We can't do that with other people's money, and it's part of the reason that we find ourselves with $1 billion in debt.
Mayor Brainerd, you can make news here if you're going to say you regret building the Palladium. But knowing what you know now, are the things that you would have done differently in building the Palladium?
No, I think we did the redevelopment commission, and our administration did a wonderful job. If you look at other similar concert halls around the country, the cost per seat here is one of the lowest. Mayoral is an example; it's about 30% higher. We built a beautiful building that will be here for thousands of years. It's maintained properly, and it's going to continue to bring in economic development to this area. Think back. We had an abandoned strip center. We had no investment coming into this area. That blighted area was going to spread. It's happened in cities across the country. I'm proud of the way that area is today. We go look at the beautiful public spaces in the city center, the Founders, the piazzas, the green where the farmers market takes place, the reflecting pool area, which is being repaired with the bad concrete pour we got. These are beautiful public spaces that we got with our city center.
We're ready to follow up questions from the audience on this. Has the endowment foundation been established for the Palladium, and the endowment bell has been raised for the Palladium?
Yes, a lot of money's been raised for the Palladium. I'd like to wave a wand and have $100 million there tomorrow, but that's not the way it works. Unfortunately, the Palladium came online at the worst financial crisis this country has had since 1929. Businesses that normally would have given us money were struggling to keep the doors open. wasn't a very good time. Our country's financial system almost entirely collapsed. But in spite of that, the Palladium Board, volunteers, have been donating money. There is a lot of money donated every year, and we're continuing to work on building an endowment. The goal over time, and this remembers a new institution. I tend to look at these things in the long term. The Indianapolis Museum of Art, with its $300 million endowment, didn't do that in 1 year. It took many decades to do that. But we're going to continue to work to build an endowment, and over time, hopefully, that will, the earnings of that endowment each year will greatly reduce the money the city has to kick in.
That's everything. Yes, okay. I was checking with you. Okay, sorry.
This is a question from an audience member also. The mayor obviously doesn't run schools or oversee schools, but it's one of the biggest drivers for why people move to the city. Will Carmel ever need 2 high schools? And so what would be the point that would happen?
That's real tempting to say that's not my area. I get to remind people from other states sometimes that have a different system that we have a 5-member popularly elected school board. Carmel that hires the superintendent, sets the tax levy, makes those decisions. As they explain it to me, though, the state of Indiana pays so much for each student that attends. And by duplicating the cost of a second high school, the actual classroom size would go up. I grew up in a little town near Elkhart. We were part of the Elkhart school system. The year that I graduated from high school, 1972, a long time ago, it closed. It's 1 high school for the town in the spring. Second high school opened that next fall. Since then, population has fallen. Their tax rates gone through the roof. They wish at least in Elkhart, they wish they had 1 high school left. It's more efficient. And I think that's what our school boards, they explain it to me. And again, not my opinion, but that's been the theory that our school boards have worked on, I think, over the years.
Well, that ship sailed about 20 years ago. And the school board, I've had the opportunity to speak at length over many years with school board members. And, we have gone too far down the road with 1 high school to expect that we could, in any cost-effective manner, try to turn that around now. I admire the work of the school board and the way they have worked so hard to keep the school, the Carmel High School, which is a cavernous place that close to, I think, plus or minus 5,000 students, but still allow students the opportunity to have a learning environment that they can thrive in. Now, you have to find your niche in a school that size. But I think that the school board has done an excellent job. I was criticized in the last election in a series of robocalls because alleging that I had raised taxes in the worst recession in the history of the United States. That was completely untrue. But the kernel of truth that was at the bedrock of that was that I had spoken out frequently and vocally in support of the school board referendum issue, and I would do it all over again because that's what's kept the school strong.
Mr. Sharp, you talked a lot about fiscal discipline and the needs, I think it's fair to say what you're saying, to bring more fiscal discipline to the city budget. Can you address the issues you're talking about without cutting and if not, where would the cuts go?
I have to be honest with you, I wouldn't be able to tell you, I could come up with a couple of some things, and that would do a disservice to the city. Any executive worth their salt will tell you their staff cut. I've talked with numerous executives of big companies and middle-sized companies and small companies, and I was one for years. You can always tighten the belt if that's what you need to do. I think that what I would do, another of the first things I would do as mayor is bring in a team of experts, probably different experts that are there right now in terms of the outside people, and we begin to scour through how the city actually operates. So we are sometimes amazed that budget projections that were given later appear not to have been as valid as one would have hoped. A case in point is the recent salary firefighters contract, where the mayor said we could sign it on a particular night because they had built the money into personal services to pay for that. Well, that turned out to be close, but not quite right. According to the performance sheet, he had money in other spots in his budget that he could move in and fill what would be a shortfall in personal services. So it's there.
Yeah. Well, it's always good to review, so you can do better. We do that on a regular basis. I have a fiscal plan in here. Here's a copy of it. This isn't a small plan. It's a lot of pages. We monitor every major decision we make, what impact it's going to have on the budget, not just today, but 10 years out. You can hire a new employee, whether it's fire or police or whatever. It's just not this year's budget. It's all the benefits out into the future, assuming that we don't want to lay somebody off. So every time we make a major decision, we model it. And I have to think that the experts that have been advising our administration have done a darn good job. It's not many cities. They can say a house today is paying 38% less in real estate taxes than it paid 20 years ago. I'm real proud of that record. And our experts that advise us and help us do that year after year should be proud of it too.
Mayor, you mentioned a new roundabout at 96 and Keystone.
Yes.
I believe you announced it in recent days or weeks. How would that be funded?
We don't know yet. We're going to look at federal, state ways to fund it. We're going to look at our budget. We take in more money every year than we spend, and we also get to prioritize various road projects. We look very carefully for the next several years. Figure out, first of all, we have to get a good budget developed. That's number one. Get that. We had one about 4 years ago, but a lot of things have changed since then. We're going to turn first to the federal government, and then secondly the state government. Try to get that fixed with as most efficient way we can for the taxpayers in Carmel.
Sure. Well, first of all, I just have to counter with taking in more than we spend. That certainly isn't the truth. It certainly wasn't the truth a year ago, and the mayor's got to know that. The state cut our budget, and the mayor went to the go-to spot to cut the budget, which is road resurfacing. We go to our maintenance budget, and that's where we make our cuts. That's not good management to me. And the proof is in the fact that last year the council had to appropriate $700,000 from the rainy day fund to put it back in the budget and make sure that our resurfacing budget was whole. That's a practice that has to stop. You can't neglect the basics. The Star had a story in Paper Sunday about what happens when you neglect the basics and an older neighborhood that has dangerous flooding on an annual basis. That we have to address. How these things are going to get paid for, that's an excellent answer that the mayor doesn't know. In my mind, these are nothing more than election year promises. I think if I added up the price tag on all the announcements made a couple of weeks ago between the east side improvements, and the east side has been sorely neglected, and the 96th Street roundabout, which is down to 40 from the $78 million it was several years ago when presented to council. If you don't have the money to pay for it, it's just a promise.
The last question is going to you guys. Tim is going to ask it.
Sure. All leaders make mistakes. Ideally, we learn from those mistakes. You're 12 years on the council. What mistake did you make that sticks out in your mind? More importantly, what did you learn from that mistake?
I failed to ask enough questions with the blade. That was a huge mistake. It never occurred to me that, especially if you go back and examine the record, I could not have been more in the middle of or on board with that project. The mayor and I had heard about a problem or saw a contract that indicated a much higher budget for the palladium than we had money for, and actually went out with the mayor and Ron Carter, and we went to a local restaurant to talk about it. And the mayor assured me that unequivocally that he would not build any enhancements to this building if he didn't raise the money for it. Lo and behold, 2 years later, we're sitting being told we're building these enhancements and we have to have $45 million more. That marked the turning point for me, wherein to take a phrase from one of my favorite Republicans, probably everybody in this room, I learned that I trust, but I verify.
Mayor Brainerd, you've had plenty of opportunities over 20 years to make a mistake. It's a mistake that jumps out in your mind, and what did you learn from it?
It was early when I was mayor. It was dealing with our annexations. Within a few weeks of taking office, I said, I believe very passionately it's the right thing to do. I said, announced to Star and other media outlets that I want to change the law legislature may call Clay Township, the city of Carmel, do these annexations. I was young, didn't have a good feel yet for how one builds consensus. I surprised everybody in the entire community, I think, with this. I should have gone out neighborhood by neighborhood. And this 18, 19 years ago, I've learned since then. And when we have major projects, you build your consensus first. I've learned that. I've learned from it. And I talk to new mayors about that. Sometimes I use that as an example when I'm asked to work with them. Try to get at least the thought leaders and have a good community discussion on something before you spread a surprise. You're going to do something major like that.
Thank you. Before we get to the closing statements, I'd once again like to thank the library for hosting this and for being such a good partner. I'd like to thank all of you for showing up, for staying, for sticking with Polaris on TV tonight and asking such great questions. I'd like to thank the candidates. On behalf of Jeff Taylor, the editor, who's standing over there, Tim Swearing, the opinions editor, Chris Zickich, our great reporter, and myself, thank you so much for participating in this, and we hope to do it again. It's been a whirlwind, but I believe the closing statement goes first to you. So, Mr. Sharp, 2 minutes to you, and then over to the mayor.
Because you all have been so patient, I'll try not to use the whole 2 minutes, but I am a talker. I know the mayor's proud of the tax rate, and I am too. I think we can still do better. The number we aren't caring about, though, is I keep coming back to that billion dollars, the fuzzy $1 billion that the state of Indiana has on their records. Do you know where that puts another record for Carmel? We have the second highest debt per capita in the state of Indiana. And we are only exceeded by Evansville, and Evansville built a new downtown in Sportsville. So, if you compare our per capita debt, I'm not going to argue the number, it's somewhere between $11,000 and $12,000. We can split hairs for $1,000. But $1,000, by the way, is the per capita debt in Indianapolis. So that's a big number to focus on. I think that even a community as wealthy as Carmel can only afford so many financial missteps. We can only afford so many projects with 50% cost overruns. We can only afford so many bailouts. The well is only so deep. I want to stop kicking the can down the road. I want to stop plugging in real fuzzy numbers like the Redevelopment Commission's revenue as a plug against their default on a note, because that only means something if the Redevelopment Commission stops spending money, and they're not. I have a positive, bright outlook for Carmel. I believe in Carmel as strongly as anyone in this room, including our mayor. I have been there to support the direction Carmel moved in. My concern is our ability to continue to move the city forward as opposed to being forced to retrench, because sooner or later it catches up with you. In my area of West Clay, there's a phenomenon, and it's people who are house poor. They come here, many of them from California, and they've got plenty of money for the bungalow that they sold, and they buy their dream McMansion. But when I'm going door-to-door campaigning, they have a card table and a couple of folding chairs. Things can look really great on the outside, and when you dig through the layers, which you shouldn't have to do, that's our job. And you don't really care that much because you expect us, and you should, you expect us to be doing our job. But when we've got almost $1 billion in debt, we need a different policy.
Mayoral, I'll give you 2.5 minutes.
Well, man, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss this here today because it's a record of success. Worked tirelessly promoting the city of Carmel. We brought more than 5,600 new jobs here in the last few years alone. The corporate taxes paid by these companies hold down our residential property tax rates. And these companies are attracted to Carmel by our high quality of life, our safe neighborhoods, and exceptional schools, and top-notch city services. They know the employees want to live somewhere with cultural and entertainment options, various recreational opportunities, and ways to get engaged with the community. And they notice that we're doing things differently in Carmel. We're transforming our older underused area of town into a thriving arts and design district. We're building a new downtown with the first-rate performing arts center, and our plan is working. We increased our parkland from 40 to almost 1,000 acres, including the Lone Greenway and 125 miles of trail. We've attracted millions of dollars of private sector investment. We had the lowest debt payments made by residential taxpayers of almost any city in the state. If you break it down and look at what a residential taxpayer is paying, it's only 3% of the total. Only 3% of the total is being paid by the residential taxpayer. You know how much that is a year? $10. So Rick, hand that over to him, man. Make sure you have $10. That's what the average residential taxpayer owes per year on debt that they're required to pay. We have a AA+ bond rating from Standard & Poor's. We had $39 million in the bank at the end of the year, including almost $9 million in a rainy day fund. Our shared vision for this community is working. We're not only not in bad financial shape, we're in great financial shape. We came out of this recession far better than most cities. We're going to continue to progress. And I do need to thank those that have supported us over the years for allowing us the opportunity to serve in these roles. I feel we've created one of the very best places to live anywhere, and we're going to try to keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Okay.